steel tore through the night. Every clash sang with pain. He ran, boots splashing across wet stone, pedals sticking to his armor, slick with blood. The scent of smoke and fear tangled in the air. Soldiers cried. Spears gleamed. Shadows lunged from every alley. Faces masked but intent, merciless. Could a man, born under a distant sun, survive here? In a land that had never seen his kind? In a world that did not see him as fully human? He tasted iron in his mouth. His lungs burned. And still, he ran. Always, he ran. The Honnoji Temple is a ribcage of fire. Ash falls like gray snow on the black skin of a man who shouldn't be here. Heat licks the lacquer of his armor. Outside, 10,000 traitors scream for the head of his lord. Inside, Yasuke stands over the man who gave him a name, a sword, and a purpose. Oda Nobunaga is preparing to tear open his own stomach. He was a slave, then a god, then a ghost. How does a man from the coast of Africa become the shadow of the most powerful warlord in Japan, only to vanish when the world starts burning? Obsessed, hungering for respect, yet bound by chains older than memory. A stranger in every land, a weapon in the service of others, a legend waiting to fracture under envy's weight. He trained alone, steel slicing the dawn air, each swing precise, sweat falling into the soil as though offering his heart to the earth itself. Loneliness gnawed at him, a reminder that he belonged nowhere, neither to the lands of his birth, nor the strange courts of the East. The rhythm of his strikes echoed the heartbeat of the ocean he once knew, the same tides that carried him from the coast of Mozambique to the strange ports of Goa. Each strike cut deeper than flesh, into the fear etched in his own heart. Before the steel, there was the sea. Yasuke was born somewhere along the eastern African coast, a land of sun-bleached sands, bustling ports, and the endless blue of the Indian Ocean. His birth name is lost to history, swallowed by tides and time. But the story begins with chains. He became known to the Portuguese Jesuits as a servant, a curiosity, and they brought him across the waves, first to India, then onward to Japan, a foreign land ripe with warriors and intrigue, where even the color of his skin made him both marvel and spectacle. He was a mountain of obsidian in a land of porcelain. Crowds pressed against each other in towns and castles just to see him, their eyes wide with awe, confusion, and desire. Each whisper spoke of the giant African who moved like shadow and light. He stood, he watched, he waited. He learned the cadence of swords, the subtleties of bows, the politics of tea houses and castles. Solitude. Yasuke was a blank scroll in a country obsessed with calligraphy. He didn't just learn the language, he inhaled the culture, memorized the ritual of each bow, the poetry of every step in the tatami hall. He was a man stripped of history and homeland, so he decided to become someone else's future. Not a slave, not a curiosity, but a warrior, a shadow, a living story who could bend the East around his presence without a single word of complaint. Every strike in the dojo, every measured breath was a claim. He would not be erased. He tore through dojo after dojo with a warrior's resolve. Each movement precise, each stroke measured, yet flowing like water over stone. Steel sang against steel, a chorus of death and discipline, and awe followed him in his shadow like rolling thunder across a storm-dark sky. Every step he took drew attention, not merely for his strength, but for the sharp intelligence flickering behind steady, unflinching eyes. Victory, yes, but whispers followed, curling through corridors like smoke, venom hidden in silk robes, glances sharpened to knives, eyes narrowing at the sight of this foreign warrior who did not speak as they spoke, who did not move as they moved. He earned the warlord's favor, growth, recognition, But admiration breeds envy, and the envy of men who have clawed and scraped for decades at tradition is a poison that slips into quiet corners, shadows twisted in candlelit chambers, plotting silently, waiting for a single misstep. Each night, Yasuke returned to his quarters alert, knowing that the very walls might whisper his name in betrayal.
Expansion followed. Therefore, the battlefield shifted from honor to survival. The same comrades who once bowed in respect now measured him as a threat. Every smile hid a dagger, every laugh a question of loyalty, every bow a calculation of intent. Nobunaga, the great fool, saw the fire in the African's eyes, a depth of focus that few Japanese men could match. He demanded that Yasuke be washed, convinced that the blackness of his skin was ink, a stain to be scrubbed clean. It didn't rub off. And Nobunaga didn't recoil. He didn't see a monster. He saw potential, a living weapon, a human embodiment of unpredictability and loyalty, fused into muscle and bone. He gifted him a house, a blade, and the name Yasuke, a name that would ripple through history. Yasuke became the shadow behind the throne. He walked the halls where daimyo had tread for centuries, and the courtiers who whispered of his foreignness and blackness learned to whisper of fear instead. The traditionalists, men who had spent a lifetime earning rank through loyalty and blood, looked at this man and seethed. He was a storm, gifted in a single month what they had sought for decades. He fought, he carved, he conquered. Every swing of his blade spoke of discipline, intelligence, and defiance. Each victory for Nobunaga amplified Yasuke's legend, and with it, the envy and suspicion of those who measured men by birth, blood, and years of servitude. Every battlefield, every duel, every measured strike elevated him further. Yet the higher he rose, the thinner the air became. Alliances shifted like sand beneath his feet. Nobunaga's favor protected him, but only just. Yasuke's every triumph was a double-edged sword. Glory in one hand, danger in the other. In this precarious climb, every shadow could hide a blade, every whisper could conceal a plot, and every step forward demanded not only skill with the sword, but vigilance, wit, and a will forged in fire. He was not merely surviving, he was living proof that mastery could unsettle even the most rigid of worlds. He sat at the warlord's side, laughter echoing in gilded halls, courtiers applauding as though he were legend reborn. Triumph, a crown of petals. The air smelled of incense and promise, thick with the sweetness of cherry blossoms and burning sandalwood. The silk of the tatami mats brushed his knees as he shifted, a small, human gesture amidst grandeur. He believed the danger had passed, that his path was clear, and that his place, finally, was secure. But that night, betrayal carved through trust like a blade. The shadows had been listening. Steel whispered in the corners.
I have the message.
Good. Let us discuss the next steps.
Slipping between candlelight and the scent of roasted fish, and loyalties proved as shifting as sand on a storm-lashed beach. Even the laughter of the courtiers now rang hollow, echoing in empty spaces between caution and death. By 1582, the dream was almost real. Japan was unifying, yet every map was drawn in blood. Yasuke was no longer a slave, he was a bushi, a gentleman warrior. His armor gleamed under the lanterns, black lacquer kissed with gold, and he sat at the right hand of the most feared man in the East. He had found a home, a fragile, fleeting home, and he had found honor. He had won the ultimate gamble, Every bow, every respectful nod, every whispered rumor in the court was now his to command, or so he thought. But honor in Japan is a bridge made of paper. It stretches only so far before the wind tears it apart, and someone always holds a match. That night, the world shifted. Alliances turned as quickly as a blade in motion. What was triumph became prelude. What was stability became the scent of smoke and ash. The line between friend and foe blurred into nothingness, and Yasuke, the giant from the distant shores, understood. In the blink of a lantern, in the smell of burning cedar, that the game he had mastered could undo him in a heartbeat. And yet, they were not monsters. Oda Nobunaga feared chaos. A foreign blade threatened order. Logic demanded control. Fear justified cruelty. Strategy required preemption. He was a man who sought unity among warlords, yet found himself fascinated and unsettled by this African giant beside him.
You say these wounds heal quickly?
Yes, Lord Nobunaga.
I've never seen such resilience.
A man whose very presence challenged everything Nobunaga thought he knew about strength, loyalty, and destiny. Every decision was measured, every strike preemptive. Humanity twisted into strategy. Loyalty traded like grain, and fear wielded like a blade. Nobunaga admired Yasuke's strength, yet he puzzled over him, questioning whether the extraordinary was unnatural, whether the skin itself could be real, whether a man born so far from this land could ever truly belong, could ever bend to the rules of a country that measured honor in lineage, blood, and ritual.
Akechi Mitsuhide wasn't a madman. He was a preservationist. To him, Nobunaga was a demon who was unraveling the very soul of Japan with foreign guns, foreign ideas, and foreign flesh. Every decision the warlord made seemed to tear at the ancient rhythm of the islands, a pulse that had existed long before the rise of castles and banners. And Yasuke? He was the living evidence that Nobunaga's ambition knew no bounds, that the world itself could be reshaped by a single hand, or, in this case, a single blade held by a man whose ancestry belonged to a distant continent. Yasuke was the ultimate proof of Nobunaga's madness, an outsider wearing the sacred armor of his ancestors, a walking paradox of loyalty and difference, strength and otherness. To Akechi, killing Nobunaga wasn't a betrayal. It was an exorcism of a man who had become larger than human, a distortion of power that could not be allowed to continue. And Yasuke? He did not incite hatred, but awe, fear, wonder. He did not belong in their world, and in that realization lay the justification for the acts that would come. The warrior's very existence made the system quake. To the villain, the other is never a man. It is never given room to breathe. It is a symptom of a disease that must be purged, a living question that demands an answer, a danger too profound to ignore, no matter the price. They struck, and shadows swallowed him like a tide, steel tearing through the air with a sound that seemed to slice the very world apart, dreams shattering in the heat of the inferno as the temple burned around him, the walls screaming in agony. And in that instant, everything familiar and sacred was gone. Nothing remained. Silence. Every step he forced himself to take became a question of existence itself. Every labored breath a battle against the smoke that clawed at his lungs. Every heartbeat a testament to the impossible will to survive. As if the very earth were pressing down upon him, daring him to falter. While flames danced along the timbered beams above, and ash drifted down like gray snow, smothering hope, curling into his eyes, scratching at his skin, filling his mouth with grit and iron,
reminding him that the world had turned against him, and that even the walls themselves seemed to conspire in his obliteration. The temple was alive with screams that twisted through the corridors, Nobunaga's body tumbling into the flame like a broken god cast down by fate. And Yasuke fought on through the chaos, his blade breaking skin, cutting through ghostly apparitions of allies and enemies alike, surrounded by the memories of every life he had touched, every promise unfulfilled, until finally he yielded, letting the sword fall from his hands as the shadows closed around him. Ash blinding, smoke suffocating, and every face he had once trusted now staring at him as phantoms of betrayal, their hollow eyes accusing, their mouths open in silent judgment, leaving him disgraced, cast out, and entirely alone. Akechi stares, eyes narrowed, lips curling into a sneer. "Not a man," he mutters, then louder, "a beast."
A foreign stray that defies a shogun. Your arrogance ends here.
He rose, scarred, forged anew by fire and death, every swing deliberate, every step precise. I exist. I endure. The world had tried to erase him, to fold him back into the shadows from which he had emerged. But the fire in his chest would not be extinguished. Each movement, each measured breath, spoke of survival honed into mastery. The air itself seemed to bend around him, as if aware that a force had returned to claim its own. Each strike carried memory, purpose, and an unbreakable defiance. Not merely surviving, but mastering the world around him. Though his lord was gone, the spirit of the warrior remained, a flame refusing to be snuffed. He felt the weight of every lesson learned under the blistering sun and in the blood-soaked halls of castles. Each scar etched a story, each step forward a declaration. The past would not bind him. He learned to move like the wind and strike like fire, knowing his life was now his own, though every path ahead was uncertain. He studied the tides, the fog rolling off the coast, the cadence of the river, the whisper of the leaves, finding rhythm in the world that once threatened to swallow him whole. Every sound, every shadow became a guide, a teacher. Even in silence he found direction, and even in uncertainty he found strength. The history books stop here. They say Akechi spared him because he wasn't worth killing. They sent him back to the Jesuits. They tried to turn him back into a slave. They told him, forget the sword, forget the honor, forget the fire that burns in your veins. But you cannot unbecome a samurai. Yasuke didn't break. He adapted. He vanished into the coastal fog of the Nanban trade, walking between worlds that had never truly known him.
Merchants whispered of a black giant who moved like shadow and struck like lightning. Children hid behind doors just to glimpse his silhouette. Traders paid him respect, nobles gave him room, and yet no crown could claim him, no title could define him. He didn't need the title anymore. He carried the weight of Nobunaga's last moments in his marrow. He shifted from a warrior of the sword to a legend of the spirit. He became a story that whispered through the tea houses for 400 years, a shadow in the minds of men, a question that could not be answered, a symbol that true mastery lies not in land or rank, but in the unyielding will to endure. One man, one sword, shifted perception. A foreigner in a rigid world, Yasuke embodied identity as more than skin, more than tradition, more than expectation. Identity is will. Even a single life can reshape the minds of many. Every life leaves echoes.
Every shadowed act carves pathways unseen. Even when forgotten, it lingers, like footprints in a river that once flowed through a land thirsty for legend. Yasuke represents the terrifying beauty of the stranger. He is the glitch in the matrix of history. He reminds us that identity isn't a birthright, it's a performance. He was a bridge between two worlds that didn't know the other existed. He was a lighthouse built on a shifting sandbar. He proved that a man can be forged in one fire and tempered in another, creating a blade that the world simply wasn't ready to wield.
We seek these muskets for our defense. We have the finest silk here, perfect for your nobles. Your price is high, but the quality is unmatched.
Could he ever truly belong? Perhaps. Or perhaps belonging is a cage we craft to feel safe. His sword waits. In memory. In shadows. In the crossing of worlds yet to come. His story continues. Somewhere, another world demands a blade forged in fire and exile. And the question remains, what becomes of those who live between worlds, bound by honor, driven by hunger, yet never accepted fully by either? So, where did he go? Some say he died in a Jesuit prison. Others say he returned to the plains of Africa, a king who had seen the edge of the world. But look at the art. Look at the stories. Every time an outsider breaks a ceiling, every time a traveler finds a home in a place they don't belong, Yasuke is there. He isn't just a man from 1581. He is the first modern man. But if Yasuke could become a samurai in a year, what is stopping the next outsider from claiming the throne you're sitting on right now?